Let's get to the security threat. It's very timely that you're here at the moment because this week you'd no doubt be aware that PNG is now flirting with China. How concerned are you about that?
Well, look, before we rush to make a comment, I'd like to know exactly what we're talking about. And you hear all these statements and comments that are being made. But the major focus of Australia and New Zealand, and dare I say it, all those countries that believe in democracy, the rule of law, the belief that people are entitled to their freedom of choice and opportunity. That's what we're here to defend in the blue continent and the Pacific, which we are part of and which Australia and New Zealand is central to. And so any concerns like that we would be taking seriously. But let's find out what we're dealing with first before we rush to prematurely respond.
Yeah, look, I get it. We've already seen what's happened to the Solomon Islands, right? It's already been sewn up by China. Do you expect, more broadly, that China would continue to try and intervene in the Pacific moving forward, Pacific nations?
Look, the Chinese talk about their innocent purpose. And so our job is to make sure that that is the case. It's not complicated in that sense. I mean, diplomacy is awfully complicated in the way that it's framed. But when countries say that this is our purpose, our job is to make sure it is exactly what it is they say they want to do.
Okay. But, I mean, would you have concerns once, China sends in security forces, then it seeks to influence the region more so than it already is?
The reality is that there has been moves by external interests out of the Pacific, in the Pacific itself. I don't want to put my target or an arrow on anyone or any country, so to speak. But whilst we say that, this has happened in a sense because there have been other countries who have real interests here who, in my view, have neglected them, who've focused their international engagements elsewhere or the importance of what they were doing elsewhere. And when you have the vacuum being formed, it will be filled. And our job is to have understood that and make sure that as going forward, it happens no more.
Okay. How do you feel about AUKUS, Winston? Do you support it?
Well, we're here to find more about it. The previous New Zealand government had ministers looking at the Pillar 2 option, so to speak. They'll get all sorts of comments, but we're here to find out much more as to how we can understand it and potentially be seriously part of it.
Okay. So you want to be part of AUKUS. How would that work, other than making for a pretty complicated acronym?
Well, let me say that we are one of 9 countries, including Australia, and there's not many of us, who've been a democracy holding regular elections, apart from wartime, since 1854, and us longer than most countries of those 9 as well. We don't rush to judgment and make a decision on Australian TV on a serious question like that. We get the information from Australia, and we go back and discuss it with our colleagues. Well, that's how democracy works.
You mentioned the previous government, Jacinda Ardern. I mean, she was very critical. She didn't want our big bad nuclear subs to be going anywhere near New Zealand, even though we're talking about a time frame that's way down the track. Do you have any problem with them?
Well, I don't know why you're quoting the previous Prime Minister who gave up after all, but on these issues, that then Prime Minister displayed enormous lack of understanding or lack of clarity, and a previous one to her had said that we live in a benign strategic environment. That's a previous Labor leader said that. Now, they can't be serious. And if they had consulted with even their Australian Labor Party colleagues in Australia, they'd have found that that wasn't true. So let's put our cards on the table here and hopefully learn from that naivety and not make the same mistakes again.
Just final one here. Is China dangerous in your view?
Look, China is very, very important to the New Zealand economy. It's a huge trading partner of ours and, dare I say it, Australia. But that doesn't mean that we cannot be clear and honest about things we disagree with. And the hopeful purpose of that is an improved circumstance for both of us. When you say, is China dangerous? They say they're not. They say that their purpose is innocent and for the interest of the worldwide betterment of humanity. Well, when we all make those comments, whether it's from China or any other country, our job, surely, internationally, is to make sure that those statements are true and not something else.
Okay. Winston Peters, good to have you with us this morning.